As I sit here in the Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden and look out, I see all sorts of trees in the distance. Attached to every one of them is a history that fascinates me. The coconut grove hammocks stand out on the plains of sawgrass, merging into the mangrove swamps. Every tree brings up a memory of the place where I got the seed or of the person who gave it to me. It changes with each season and grows older, just as I do. Our gardens are a place in which to wonder, and wondering puts new forces to work, forces which will change the world. In 1898, I took over the directorship of the Agriculture Department's Plant and Seed Introduction Program, introducing new plants to America. Florida was the only place where tropical plants could be grown in the United States. Henry Flagler developed the Florida East Coast Railway as far as Miami and was interested in a tropical laboratory and garden. The land for such a garden was offered by Mrs. Mary Brickell, who lived on the Miami River. There were about 1,000 people in the neighborhood, living here and there in the pine woods along sandy roads through the brush. As I crossed the river, merely a jungle trail, a love for southern Florida was born in my heart. The only place in America where coconuts, pineapples, avocados, papayas, and mangoes would attract settlers. However, the Secretary of Agriculture was an Iowa man and considered it a backward country with a disagreeable summer climate and no soil rich enough to grow corn. Luckily, the Spanish War created a wave of interest in tropical agriculture when our soldiers returned from Cuba and Puerto Rico with tales of new, delicious fruits. Then the Senate Appropriation Bill passed and granted me the unheard-of sum of $20,000 to introduce all variety of plants to the country, and I would begin my travels worldwide. I went to Naples, Breslau, Corsica, Bana, Java, Indonesia, Australia, the West Indies, around South America, the Netherlands, India, New Guinea, through Europe to gather wheat and barleys. Then I ventured to Egypt, Tunis, Algiers, Spain, the Orient, Japan, China, India, then to Baghdad, the Persian Gulf, and the Tigris River to introduce dates to the American Southwest. In all, I collected over 30,000 plants and seeds and became predisposed in favor of a life in the tropics. Soon after my return to Washington, I met Gilbert Grosvenor, the editor of National Geographic, who invited me to address the Society. Present in the audience was Alexander Graham Bell, who invited me to one of his Wednesday evenings, the most interesting social event in Washington at the time, and where, even more important to me, I met his daughter, the young Marion. It was the beginning of a part of my life vastly more beautiful than anything I thought possible. We would be married 17 months later. Indeed, that spring of 1904 was a wonderful time. Theodore Roosevelt was in the White House, a chief executive who thought in biological terms and began preserving wildlife in the forests. Over the next 20 years, I would not have enough hours in the day to write my bulletins and arrange my photographs and seeds of all the worldwide plants waiting to be introduced to America. Florida began to fill up with people who needed information on the strange new plants surrounding them. So, in 1912, Marion and I boarded the Atlantic coastline for Miami. We felt we were in a fairyland. Marion and I felt the flood of soft sunlight streams and decided to settle in the hammock region of Coconut Grove. We built a home and called it the Kampong, the Malaysian word for small city. By 1927, it was a place where I would sit for hours in the morning, gazing out to the bay, at the beach of coral and limestone, the royal palms, the mangroves, and wild vegetation. In 1936, Colonel Robert H. Montgomery founded Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden. Colonel Montgomery, a Connecticut accountant who established Price Waterhouse Coopers, purchased the 83 acres on Old Cutler Road and deeded the land to the Parks Department of Dade County to partner and maintain the property, along with Everglades defenders Marjorie Stoneman Douglas and Charles Crandon. We then obtained the services of William Lyman Phillips to landscape it. Well known for his work in the Panama Canal Zone, and the adjacent Matheson Hammock Park. As this was in the middle of the Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps helped in the construction of the stone walls and original buildings. In the Montgomery palmatum of the garden, over 250 species of the queens of the plant kingdom thrive. In honor of Liberty Hyde Bailey, a palm glade is fast taking shape along the shore of the shallow lake. Tropical vines are beautifully displayed over a long pergola, the interest of Mrs. John B. Semple. Then, in 1939, with World War II looming, Anne Archbold and I would embark on a plant-collecting voyage to seed the garden. Marion and I traveled cross-country to Los Angeles and boarded a freighter passing through Kobe, through Shanghai, then aboard the Chinese junker the Chang Ho, from Hong Kong to Manila and the seas off Indonesia. I want to make clear I am no seaman, but my fellow crew of sailors and plant collectors would go on to collect seeds from the Moluccas, their hanging fruits, oriental mangroves, a completely fascinating experience. Upon my return, the garden would go on to develop one of the world's most important collections of tropical plants. While I wouldn't live to see Fairchild today, I understand it flourished in the years to come. From the 1950s to the 1970s, the garden began its foray into research, establishing rare plant houses, laboratories, and an educational program to foster young students' interest in my beloved field of botany. On the morning of August 24, 1992, a fierce Category 5 hurricane, Andrew, hit the southern coast of Florida, its eye passing due south of the garden. Many palms I seeded were downed, and tropical flowers of all varieties lost. But from that devastation, we bloomed yet again. In 1994, a comprehensive master plan paved the way for growth, development, and renovation. We've brought flora and fauna from Madagascar. We've planted palms from every tropical destination. Our Mango Fest brings the exotic fruit from all corners of the earth to countless enthusiasts. And our Fairchild Challenge has taught thousands of students to appreciate nature. So, as I gaze out on the garden, there comes to me a cosmic feeling of happiness among the royal palms along the stony beach, the lure of paradise. Marion and I are like Adam and Eve at the entrance of the Garden of Eden. This is a paradise of plants. It is a world of beautiful imagination and peace. It is the culmination of a life of wonder well spent, exploring and planting the seeds of this, the Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden.